Welcome to Really American. I am Michael Hain. Remember when occasional human being, or at least one impersonating a human being, Couchboy JD Vance, was a never Trump guy? I'm a never Trump guy. Remember that? When he called him America's Hitler, basically said a lot of things that I think Democrats have said about Trump.
As somebody who doesn't like Trump, myself, the elites were right about Donald Trump, right? I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place. If I feel like Trump has a really good chance of winning, I might have to hold my nose and vote for Hillary.
Terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroine, noxious and reprehensible.
But I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place. He's leading our political discourse to a very negative place. If Trump is elected president, he has to be a much different president than he was a candidate. As a candidate, he was fundamentally divisive, arrogant.
Isn't it amazing how a lust for power can make you from going from a never Trump guy to like kind of reasonable to Haitian migrants are eating your pets? Anyway, does anybody find it unusual or weird how JD Vance kind of resembles serial killer John Wayne Gacy when he doesn't have the beard? Anyway, my apologies to John Wayne Gacy. Now, the Washington Post apparently revealed some other unsettling things that JD Vance said about Trump, and this was in 2020. The Washington Post reported that Vance had written to an unknown person that Trump, quote, was just thoroughly failed to deliver on his economic populism. I guess accepting some sort of disjointed China policy. Vance also wrote, I think Trump will probably lose. This was in 2020, people. Now, of course, Vance's people were very quick to go into damage control, with one of his spokespeople saying that the words weren't a criticism of Trump. I don't know what type of verbal gymnastics and magical rabbit you have to pull out of your ass to say that that wasn't a direct criticism of Trump. But anyway, his spokesperson said that it was rather a criticism of establishment Republicans who thwarted much of Trump's populist economic agenda to increase tariffs, as we know, don't get me into tariffs again, and boost domestic manufacturing in Congress. Damn, JD, you may want to see a doctor for that massive foot and mouth disease you got going on. Anyway, this did not stop the Harris campaign from trouncing upon these comments. The Harris response team responded this way. From Kamala headquarters, it's hard to conceive of a more scathing and definitive rejection of Donald Trump's economic record than his own running mate, stating categorically that Trump, quote, failed on the economy. You don't have to take it from us, conservative economists, or Mitch McConnell. I'm still relevant, Mitch McConnell. J.D. Vance himself was crystal clear. Donald Trump thoroughly failed to deliver on his economic promises and is only looking out for himself and his rich donors, not the American people. So if AI is now running our lives, do you think it could possibly produce better vice presidential candidates? Because I got to tell you, JD Vance's AI is really on the fritz. Speaking of JD Vance, and when it comes to the economy, y'all remember how just a week ago he completely made an utter ass out of himself when he failed in his supermarket attempt to explain how the cost of eggs were actually higher than they ever were, but he screwed that up because there was actually a sign right above him saying that it wasn't a dozen eggs. Anyway, let's look at what some of the internet had to say about that.
Supposed to perfectly encapsulate Vance's message about the struggles of everyday Americans. But as the camera zoomed in on him, something in the background caught the attention of sharp-eyed viewers. Right there on the shelves behind Vance were cartons of eggs priced at $2.99. And then came a social media storm. Within minutes, clips of the scene were circulating online. One user on social media platform X wrote, I know math isn't your strong suit, but that's 2 dozen. Another chimed in, stop lying to your party to get votes. The internet pounced, turning Vance's grocery store trip into a viral meme. While the irony was hard to ignore, there was a bit of truth to Vance's claims. According to some reports, the average price of eggs in Pennsylvania had climbed to around $4.52. But standing in front of $2.99 cartons made the whole thing a bit awkward, to say the least. Now, eggs weren't the only...
Google, what does it look like when a robot tries to pretend he's human but instead proves himself to be a complete and utter ass clown in a supermarket? Oh, okay, that's what it looks like. Oh, bless your robot heart, JD. You really thought you were doing something there, didn't you? You still don't understand that, well, inflation, the consumer price index, has significantly come down now by virtue of not just the Inflation Reduction Act, which, by the way, all of your fellow Republicans voted against. But actually now interest rates are coming down. If you've been following that at all, I don't know what, rock you've been high. Maybe you've just been in like the Pennsylvania grocery store the whole time. But Jerome Powell, federal chairman, announced that, yes, inflation rates are going to be going down and probably will continue to steadily go down. Also, I know you don't actually understand math, but you don't understand the economy either. Now let's take a look at what happened with Trump in his final year and what happened with inflation and the colossal shit show that President Biden inherited.
Here's what inflation did under the Trump and Biden administrations. Inflation was at 2.5% when Trump took office and hovered between 1.5% and 2.5% until the pandemic started. According to the Department of Labor Statistics, within months, it dipped to 0.1% as lockdowns stalled consumer demand, especially for energy. Now, when Biden took office, inflation was at 1.4% and it skyrocketed, peaking at 9% in June of 2022. Now, according to the St. Louis Federal Reserve, prices surged during the pandemic because supply went way down and demand went way up. The pandemic bottlenecked global supply chains so goods couldn't be made, and people stuck at home were saving record amounts of money and getting trillions in government stimulus from both administrations. Trump signed the $1.7 trillion CARES Act. Biden signed the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. Inflation fell substantially over the last year and at 2.5%, which doesn't mean things are getting cheaper. It means they're going up less.
So I see what happens. A screaming, orange, carnival-barking, fascist, criminal con man ignores a worldwide plague when it was going on. As we know, he was aware of it because we've all heard that interview he had with Bob Woodward back in January. So what happens is the entire world economy shuts down. Production, poof, goes away. We go from a service-based sector to a goods-based sector. Everybody's sitting at home flush with money. Where's that money coming from? Is it just coming from the sky? No. Trumpy Dumpty is approving trillion-dollar stimulus. So the people are finally brushed with money. Finally, working people can, actually, the consumer-based economy, which is working and middle-class people, are spending again. Now, what happens when the entire world economy shuts down? Well, when the entire world economy starts up again, you get inflation. Is it Biden's fault that he happened to be president when the plague was subsiding and he actually got, he was responsible for actually addressing the plague and addressing the pandemic? So is that his fault? Also, I didn't know President Biden was the president of the world. He's that powerful because inflation was higher in countries like Germany than it was in the United States. So again, the lying. You're smarter. You are obviously smarter than Trump. Well, my dog's excrement is smarter than Trump. You know what you're doing. You know you're bullshitting. You know that ain't the truth. But guess what? Much like Trumpy Dumpty, you're not very good at lying. I am Michael Hain. This is Really American. Please subscribe to our channel and check me out on my latest TikTok at Mike Hain Comedian. Talk to you later.